It might be a question in everybody's mind, what the heck is vertical tillage? And how is it different from a regular system? So let's kind of go over here and look at this. This is one of many different types of vertical tillage tools. The first thing I would point out, with vertical tillage, the idea is you're only going straight down. So you're like if you look at a regular disc or you think about a plow, you're coming into the soil and you're creating some horizontal movement of soil, right? You're kind of pushing things over. Vertical till, the idea is to go straight down and not necessarily flip any of the soil that's deep, right? What that does is it theoretically allows you to maintain your soil structure at depth. Now, the challenge with a system like this is that you have to start it correctly, otherwise you end up with some issues. And you'll see some of those issues when we look at this field. Vertical tillage, there's kind of some gray area in what types of equipment that includes. Literature that I read for the most part suggests that you should go into a vertical tillage system with a soil ripper, and what that does is it allows you to get down below any previously existing compacted soil layers. So you're ripping your soil up at depth, but you're not turning it over. So you're maintaining some of your soil profile still. And then the biggest difference between vertical till and no-till is that you are having an effect on the soil on the surface. So you are going to fluff up your seed bed a little bit and create a little bit better soil to plant into in terms of trying to get good seed to soil contact. So like this piece of equipment right here, I have these gangs on the front, and what this does is it allows me to run these straight down into the soil at no angle or up to a 6-degree angle if I need to be a little bit more aggressive. And so this is these waved Coulters on the front, act kind of like what you would see on some no-till drills. And just kind of create cracks in the soil, kind of open it up a little bit, get some airspace, and improve some of that infiltration on the surface. And then on the back, I've got those baskets, those different like harrow type mechanisms, and what they do is they come behind and kind of fluff up the surface and break up some of the residue. And then I plant into a smooth and consistent soil seed bed. And I can plant behind this piece of equipment with a conventional drill or a no-till drill. And so having something like this allows you to not have to run something as heavy as a no-till drill, but on the, I guess, the adverse side of that, you're also still having to run multiple passes of equipment. Whereas with a no-till system, you're primarily just running that drill through and then maybe spraying over the top of it. I will say one of the benefits of this system that I've noticed is it's had less of a need to spray chemical behind it. So my weed control has been better in these strips than in the no-till strip over the whole course of the growing season. I've still had to apply some chemicals, but I've minimized the number of passes I've had to make as compared to a traditional or a conventional system. So again, there's lots of different types of vertical tillage tools, but the idea is, again, you're just going straight down, and then you're not having a damaging effect on the soil profile, with the exception of the years that you need to go in and rip to remove compaction layers. Now the challenge with this, like I said, is if you manage this incorrectly, you create some issues. So when this strip was established, it had previously been disked and plowed and things like that. So they went into it with some layers of soil compaction. And so we've basically been fluffing the seed bed over the top of a compacted layer. And when we flip that soil over, you'll see that it has some similar issues to the conventional strip. If we move to managing this more like a vertically tilled strip, we might find that our soil profile has better moisture and consistency all the way down, kind of like what we saw in the no-till strip. So these are just different things we're looking at. This is not a system we have a great handle on yet. There's not a ton of literature that speaks to how this compares to a no-till or conventional till system, especially for our environment. But it's something I'm interested in, and looking forward to gathering more data on. You can control the depth that you run this. Typically I'm running this right to the bottom of the waves on the Coulters. So that's like 3 or 4 inches.
So when you were describing it earlier, I was thinking you were doing more of like a deep ripping where you're getting down below that and fracturing your compaction level, but that's not what this tool is doing.
That's not this tool. Yeah. So the tool that's going to do that is a ripper shank.
Yeah.
It's going to go down below the depth of a plow and just tear that soil up, kind of break through those compaction layers.
So that takes a lot of tractor.
It does.
Does this take, this probably then, if it's only going 3 or 4 inches, what does it take?
This one you can run on these flat fields with about 120 horsepower. This is a 10-foot Turbo Max. You start getting into hills, you need some more horsepower. Basically, you get above a 10-foot and hills, you probably need over 150 horsepower to pull something like this. Mostly because it's really heavy.
Do you think you're going to try something like the more deep ripping or something like that on these spots?
I'm hoping to. I would like to restart this vertical till strip as a true vertical tillage system so that the data is accurate and I can see what the effect is over time, both in terms of production and in the soil.
Yeah, I think the potential is you're short on oxygen in this soil, right? It's compacted, you know that, but that being able to get that compaction layer fractured when it's really dry or really frozen, and it can break up, and you don't convert it to pulverize the soil, but you get that oxygen and water penetration, which then speeds up your biology. That would be the theory or the idea behind it, and this will correct itself eventually with this biology, but it'll be faster if the person can get in there and allow that water and air to cycle like it's meant to.
Yeah. Well, I think if we turn back to thinking about how this plays in financially, one of the downsides to this no-till strip is both with the cover crop mixes and with the wheat, every year it has lagged in production. And so with wheat, we're getting straw and grain off of it, and it's been significantly lower in production every year. It's a risk you take with hopes that the long-term payout from no-till and improved soils will eventually catch up. And literature suggests that it will, but how long that is in our specific environment with our soils is one of the questions we have, and kind of why we're doing this study. We want to know how many years worth of risk you have to take before it pays off. And then again with vertical tillage, if this meets you somewhere in the middle and you're still concerned about your bottom dollar and finances, this system has shown us, even in its imperfection, just running this and not ripping it, we've had the greatest production in this strip consistently over our conventional and no-till strip. And so there's some promise there. Maybe with the right implements and tools, it will play out to be a really, really good option in the future. But I don't know that yet for certain.
You just have to rip it once?
I don't know. I imagine if you notice you're having compaction issues, again we talk about monitoring your soil right. If you're consistently digging down and you're noticing compaction layers, then maybe you think about ripping. If you don't seem to be having any issues when you're digging your soils up, then maybe you only need the finishing tool like this for several years.
If you had to rip, one pass be enough?
Should be. Most systems, it's one-time ripping in the fall, then they finish with this in the spring. All right, so you can come look at these. I would encourage you to. But you can see the difference in layers here. And then I think you can see that over here as well. Yeah, kind of, you can see where you start to pick up moisture and where the roots are turning in, kind of hitting that compaction layer. That would have been the depth that the disking operations or plowing operations happened 3 years ago. More than likely.
And the only reason I was able to get comfort like that is
Yeah, and so one of the problems with the compaction is it's prohibiting your moisture from getting down throughout the whole soil profile. Right, so we're getting moisture right in the top, and then it's sitting on that layer of compaction and prohibiting it from going too much further into the soil. And so and then it dries out really fast, and so we've got a bunch of cracks and stuff on the soil surface. And you don't really see that in the no-till system. So, the one thing I would reiterate is the Research and Extension Center, we're really here to kind of help you. So we want to do research that you find meaningful and impactful. And if you have questions, we want to work with you and kind of help you get those questions answered. Because one of the things that we can do as a Research and Extension Center is take on some of the financial risk of trying things that are new and different. And so that you don't have to if they don't work, right?